all gone. I expected stains, little telling marks and creases on the covers to show me where it sat not a second ago. But whatever it is, it left not a single trace. And though courage is a hard thing to gather at this point, I take what little of it remains in me and turn towards the back seat. Even then, there's none. Or was there really something there? Or was there really something in there in the first place? With how empty it is, I'm beginning to doubt it. This stupid flu again.
I need a long rest after this.
My hands fall uselessly to my sides, numb from how taut my grip on the wheel has gone, yet still trembling from the unexpected rush of adrenaline. Against my ears, my heart still pounds an erratic rhythm, and my breathing hasn't slowed down. But the world has already righted itself without waiting for me. And little by little, second after second, as I sit here motionless, color begins to seep back around me. Along with it are the sounds and a voice, no longer the indistant ringing it was earlier. Isabella?
Rebecca? Becca, are you okay? Answer me, will you? You're scaring me. You know what? I think we should just call a taxi since... Can you keep it down?
Strained, harsh, and completely unintentional. But with heat prickling at the back of my eyes and a mild throbbing at my temple, I could honestly do with what little silence for now.
Keep it down? We almost crashed, Becca! I know what happened. It was a lapse. I'm sorry. A lapse? You call that a lapse? Becca, I really don't want to end up a mangled mess on the side of the road, or a mangled mess anywhere. All I'm asking, if the time ever comes, which I hope isn't right now, is a peaceful death. Give that one to me at least. Not that I'm asking for it, but please. Isabella. Belle, you're overreacting. If you're so worried, why don't you drive? I don't have a license.
I don't have a license.
I keep telling you to get one, didn't I? For the past 5 years.
They were friends for 5 years.
Do you see why now? I wasn't really expecting to stay here this long. I thought it'd just be for a year or two.
So cute. All of a sudden, a pensive mood comes over her. Isabella looks away then, while what's left of my little lecture never crosses the tip of my tongue. I don't allow it to, because in each of those words she let loose earlier is a small truth. Her stay has always been meant to be something fleeting. Earn some good money, go home. It's what she tell herself during her first year here. Now, half a decade later, I'm not sure if she still believes that. Even I'm not sure if I still believe it. And if there's something in her reasons that has changed along the way, if I already have a hunch, it's one thing I'll never bother to ask. Those are hers to keep.
I'll be careful this time, I promise. Just please, can we give this whole thing a rest for now?
She nods, and that is the end of it. We spend the rest of the trip back to Salem Well in silence. Alright. And where is it? Aww. That's cute. Yeah, look at this. Alright. Tunnel. All thoughts of an overactive imagination playing tricks on a flu-aided mind and of smiles never meant for my eyes. Abandoned, if only for a brief moment. Dot dot dot. Hmm. So now it's the 25th. And we were what? On the 21st? So that was a big jump. It begins innocently enough. Tuesday morning arrives like any other day before it, bright and clear. Even though it comes with an extra helping of the unusual October weather, I appreciate being able to catch a glimpse of the clear skies lately. After going through a bout of sickness last week, it does something to lift the mood of what would otherwise be a dreary morning. And despite being mostly a creature of habit, I wind up waking earlier than usual because of it. Still no earlier than Isabella, it appears. I assume she'll take a day or two off because of what happened to Miss Cooper, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Ah, that's right, I chose for her to work. The sound of the morning news drifts from her unit when I walk past on the way to my mailbox. Chances are, around this hour, she's already dressed and ready to go, probably just waiting for the next bus to arrive. I tried following her example before, but I don't think I'll be repeating that.
Really? How can anyone be up before the sun is up?
It's a habit she got from home, she said, instilled in her by the kind of life she grew up in. Like clockwork, it's always at 4 a.m., either to help with the chores or prepare her little siblings for school. Seriously, 4 o'clock in the morning? It surprised me the first time. She just didn't look like someone who could. In the end, I simply passed it off as one of the many things anyone will have to get used to around her. Not that I'll ever fully understand. I'm, wait, what? I'm my parents' only child. We're not well off, but so far, I lived a relatively easy life. I didn't have to think about bills or food for the next day, or paying for any siblings' tuition on top of my own, or supporting a sick father's medicine. All I have to worry about were my grades, if it gained mom and dad's approval, or what we be having for dinner. When put next to hers, they all pale in comparison. They look like less problems and more like petty issues this way.
Petty issues?
But as unimportant as it all sounds, sometimes its ugly head rears at the most inappropriate moments. And sometimes they come through your mailbox in the form of fancy-looking letter, pretty ribbons and all. Whoever sent this has spent silly money on the envelope alone. Verging on ridiculous, really. I can already imagine Isabella wrinkling her nose once she sees this. Then she'll complain about unnecessary expenses and rich people problems. I'm almost afraid to touch it myself. As if simply brushing a hand against its crisp surface would be enough to put a crease on it, and it'll be a terrible slight to the sender. But as aggregated as I find this, it isn't really the first time I received one. Most of the time, it's not even from me, so who am I to complain? Either way, no look of surprise crosses my face once I flip the envelope over to see my parents' names written in a neat script.
Nothing new then.
Their years in the academy naturally brought with it various connections, people from other fields art, science, business, politics, you name it. This one, though, gives off a much personal vibe. Letters like this usually come from old students, people who've grown fond of my parents, and they in turn treat like children of their own. I only met a few of them. Most have moved on to become successful in their chosen careers, and little letters like this are their way of expressing gratitude. It's one thing mom and dad are proud of, rightfully so, and I'm happy for them. But there are times I wish they'll remember they have a daughter here, the real one. Not that it's of any importance now. It's not like they didn't raise me well and provided for me. They did. I wouldn't be where I am now if it weren't for their hard work. And like a dutiful child, I do everything I can to give back. Even if it's as small a thing as letting them know they got another mail waiting for them. The phone rings for a good minute before someone answers. Mom, her voice as warm as I can remember.
Becca?
Or as I remember.
Hi, Mum. How's the conference going?
Well enough. Until your dad sprained his ankle.
Oh.
Oh no, is it bad?
I'm alright. In case anyone in this family cares to listen, I'm alright. Very much alive, darling.
And there you have it. He'll be up and walking in a few weeks, don't worry. We're going to have to extend our stay here until it heals, though. Is something the matter?
Nothing big. Just that this mail arrived for you this morning.
A lie. Thankfully, she doesn't notice. Although, if I'm going to be honest, a small part of me yearns for her to do so and ask me about it, but I put down that idea almost as soon as it surfaces. I shouldn't make them fret. They're busy.
What does it say?
Raise your glasses, give cheers to the good times, blah blah.
Becca Manners. That isn't how I taught you to read.
Sorry. You are cordially... it's an invitation, Mum, for a housewarming party. From, Hana?
The name rings a bell, though at the moment I can't recall when or where I've heard it recently. It must be nothing too important if I didn't bother committing it to memory. There are a lot of Hanas in the world, so who knows?
Hana.
She also wrote you a note, Mum. It says you used to be her private tutor at the Evans mansion, and that she misses you and would love to see you two again.
It makes my heart clench to read another openly say those words to them, the same ones I want to tell them. I want to see you too. It's been years since we've been together as a family, and if there's one thing that hasn't changed from childhood, it's that Mom and Dad are still busy with their respective careers. Out of the country, away on some meeting or symposium, sometimes from months on end. It only grew more frequent with the years until I'm old enough to live on my own. I like to think that's how I become independent at such an early age. They always praise me for that. At times, I wish they didn't.
Evans? Oh, I remember now. Honey, it's Hannah. Hannah Evans. Remember? Bright girl, 2 years older than Becca?
Didn't she get married a few years ago? 7 now, I think. But they grow up so fast, these kids.
Yeah, she invited us to that too. Fonte de Medici. But we missed that one because you had to present your paper in Singapore.
We did send her a note after. Still a shame we couldn't attend, though. What is it about this time?
She sent another invite for a housewarming party. Becca, when is it?
This Friday, Mum.
Oh, that's too bad. We'd love to be there, but Da's not in a condition to go walking around. I guess we'd have to decline again. I really miss that girl.
I could go in your place.
I let it slip without thinking. Personally, I've never been fond of gatherings, regardless of how simple people make it seem. But if there's one thing I hate hearing, that disappointed note in Mom's voice always ranks first. Whether it's directed at me or some other thing that doesn't matter.
Are you sure? Don't you have work this Friday?
The event will be in the evening, Mum. It shouldn't take anything away from my schedule. It's all right. The invite's for 2 people. I can bring someone with me so things don't get boring.
I see. Maybe you can also invite Ashton?
Mum, that's a sure no from him. He hates attending parties. But I'll see what I can do. If not, I can always bring Isabella with me. You know her. She won't say no if there's food involved.
Okay, if it's not going to be a big problem for you, I don't see why not. We owe you this one, darling.
No problem, Mum. I'll even say hi to Hannah for you.
Please do. And let her know we'd love to see her once we're back in the city. Leave her a number or something.
I will.
But you know, the 2 of you would have become really good friends. Don't you remember? You met with her once. If my memory serves me right, you were 12 then?
This too, I can't recall. It's probably one of those meetings where we only talked a bit before going our ways. If she did leave an impression, I'm pretty sure I would have written about it somewhere, or at least recognized her name. As it is, the only few people I remember clearly from that time in my life is Ashton and Mandy, to some extent. Mom must have sensed my confusion because she laughs.
Don't push yourself too hard, darling. Really, it felt like having 2 daughters back then. Sometimes I wish they didn't send her away to boarding school. But, well, you know how often that goes with them. Still, try talking to her while you're there.
Oh, we'll see. I'll let you know what happens after.
I'm looking forward to it, darling. Take care of yourself.
Will do. You too, Mum. Bye. Tell Da to be careful next time.
She chuckles then, a hearty one, tender and always light on my ears. She may be a stern teacher, but this is the part of her I love the most. The sound of it still echoes even as our call comes to a abrupt end. Excuse me. Bring with it a memory from so many years ago, when life and responsibilities that accompany adulthood are things far from our minds. If given the chance, I love to go back to those. I don't dwell on it though, shaking it all away almost as soon as the memory forms a clear picture in my head. I always wondered how Isabella can easily pretend everything's normal over a phone call, then bounce back to her usual self immediately after. I've seen her do it plenty of times. For me, it just drains whatever energy I have. And with a whole day of teaching still ahead of me, I can't afford to look exhausted in front of my students. Even for a wee bit. It's never a good example to set. So with another sigh, I put everything at the back of my mind and tread back to my room. The rest of my day waits. ... 15 minutes later, I'm heading back out, dressed for the day, my car keys in hand. Ordinarily, I don't stop for anything. There's never a need to. That's the beauty of this apartment complex. It's quiet and everyone keeps to themselves. No useless platitudes in the morning, no need to wear a smile on your face lest other people are nosy enough to ask. Today, however, the morning broadcast still plays from Isabella's room. My brisk pace slows to a stop, and a frown gradually forms in my face.
She hasn't left.
Of course, this isn't unusual. There are times when I left earlier than she did. Like last Friday, before their open house. But those days are few and far between. It only happens in the dire circumstances, though the last part of that might be a bit of exaggeration. However, with what's happened in the last few days, maybe today is one. The death of a friend isn't something anyone can brush off. And for someone like Isabella's the kind who gets attached to people easily. With Zachary, Ashton, and I, that has been the case. I can't imagine what she might be going through right now, especially when the woman was someone she owed a lot despite their training being brief. I've given her the space last night in deference, but perhaps today might be a proper time to check on her?
Oh, whatever. I've still got time anyway.
With light steps, I move closer to her door, hand already poised to knock. Still, I don't do so until I hear her answer me.
Isabella? Belle? Are you in there?
No answer. After a second, I finally knock, lightly, so I don't disturb her, in case she's sleeping and has merely left the telly running last night. Never mind how she never lets that happen. Ever. Waste of electricity and all.
I just want to check on you before I leave. Is that okay? Are you going to work today? Belle?
Still nothing.
I'm about to leave. If you want, I can drop you off.
Another round of knocking. Then, I'm fishing out a copy of her key from my bag and unlocking the door. She lent it years ago, after I complained about the mess and offered my help in cleaning up. I thought the gesture was completely unnecessary back then. After all, I could always knock. But she never did bother taking them from me, always returning it or turning away from the conversation whenever I insist. At one point, I simply stopped trying to hand it back to her.
Isabella? I'm coming in, all right?
Without waiting for her answer, I push the door open and step inside. Her unit's still a mess. Instant noodle cups on the table, a pile of clothes on one side, papers strewn about everywhere, and an unkept bed, among other things. This much is a given, will always be a given. I've been in here several times already, and I still wonder how she can function like a human being with the place in this state. God, I need like water or something. I think I'm getting sick. However, that's neither here nor there. I'm not sure what I'm expecting, but it's certainly not finding an empty flat. Granted, she could have left earlier, far earlier than usual. But she never ever leaves without making sure she's unplugged everything. That's something she doesn't forget to do. It doesn't help that her bathroom appears unused this morning. Another habit, it can only mean she hasn't been here since last night. Perhaps even since the morning after Miss Cooper's death. Either idea doesn't sit well with me. What with the news we've been hearing lately.
The authorities are still trying to find the cause of death for all the victims. Early investigation revealed most of them were employed under Briar Realty Corporation at the time of death. Meanwhile, BRC has refused to comment on this.
Gathering my wits, I immediately place a call to her mobile. It rings for a good minute, the sound a comfort in itself, but when another minute rolls by without her answering, well, I'm not a woman prone to panicking. Sudden bouts of temper maybe, but never panic, despite how I may sound when speaking. And when it ultimately goes straight to her voicemail, a sigh is the only thing I let out. The pause doesn't last long though. In the next moment, my fingers are already moving across the screen in search of the two people who might be able to help. It's Ashton's number I find first and dial. Call it a habit, but even Isabella thinks he's dependable when the situation calls for it. Despite how much they give each other grief, that already says a lot about him. There's Zachary, but around this hour he's probably still sleeping. If he has freelance work, it's very likely he's just gotten himself in bed. He's the last person I want to bother, if anything. The wait doesn't take long. Soon, a click, then Ashton's voice echoes through the receiver, rough and still heavy with sleep. He never did grow fond of mornings.
Becca? Christ, what time is it? What's up?
Not you, apparently.
Good one. Did you call this early just to make that joke? I'm going back to sleep.
No, Ash, hold on. This is important.
Becca, stakeout last night. Make this quick. I've still got a few hours before the chief bothers me.
Sorry, I'll let you go back to sleep after. It's just that... Wait, you were on a stakeout last night?
Did I say that? Shit.
Shit.
Forget I said that. Forget I said anything. Forget we had this conversation.
So, you have no idea?
About what? About what? I also have no idea why we're talking so early in the morning, so there's that.
No! Will you stop sleep talking or whatever for a second? Belle didn't come home last night. She's gone!
Who?
Isabella!
Instead of an answer, a brief pause comes after, followed by something blunt and heavy-hitting. A hard surface and a string of rather colorful curses from here. The moment might have been one of the many things I'll keep to myself and remember fondly in the next few days if things aren't the way they are. When He picks up again. There's no trace of sleep left in his voice.
Say that again, from the top.
Isabella's gone, Ash. She didn't come home last night. Her flat's empty. She left her telly running. You know she doesn't do that at...
Okay, Becca, stop. Calm down first. You're starting to panic.
I'm not!
You are. Breathe. One person's not going to simply disappear like that. This is Isabella we're talking about. Did you try calling her?
What did you think is the first thing I did? She's not picking up. It went to her voicemail.
How about Zach? Did you check with him?
Not yet. I didn't want to bother him. You know he has trouble sleeping and all that.
Alright, I'll go ask Zach. I'll call you back.
No, wait!
He ends the call before I can utter a single word of protest. But for the first time since entering this room, tension is gone from my shoulders and my breathing has ceased. The bed creaks as I sink down on it with a sigh. The telly still blares the same uninteresting news, and I'm surrounded by clutter. All the same, it feels strangely calm to be here without worry nagging at me. I'll have to apologize to Zachary later for sending Ashton his way this early. But for now, relying on the latter for this isn't the wrong choice. It never will be. That's something I won't ever doubt in him, much like his promises. And true to his words, he calls back only a few minutes after the last one has ended.
She's with Zach.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. She could have at least sent a message last night.
What are you, her mother?
It's one thing to hear that from Isabella, but from Ashton?
I don't want to hear anything like that from you.
I'm serious. You've got to stop treating her like she's one of your students, Becca. You don't have to keep tabs on her every time. Last I checked, she's only 3 years younger than the two of us. That's almost a decade gap from those kids you're teaching, you know?
Says the person who keeps calling her Scaredy Cat.
That's not related at all. Anyway, I'll go check how she's doing. Don't stress yourself out. You go ahead to work.
Wait, you? Don't you have a precinct to be at? Whatever happened to not treating her like one of my students? Because if anyone's going to ask me, I think you're doing the same thing.
I like Becca. She's the... How should I put this? The good kind of bitch. If that makes sense.
Zach said it's an emergency. Something happened last night.
Emergency?
He didn't put it in those exact same words, but it sounded like it.
Ash, what really happened? Is Isabella fine?
She's alright. She's safe. Zach let her stay the night after she... Look, okay. Z-Man wasn't clear about it, but let me handle this. I'll check on her. I'll bring her home.
It sounds like a lie, if I ever heard one. The sort where he omits things so people won't fret. And I'm not sure whether I should be happy he cares that much to do that. There shouldn't be a need for this between us, is there? We grew up together, didn't we? He knows I'm capable of at least hearing out the truth without it gnawing at me for the rest of the day. He knows me better than that. I know him better than that. Frankly, there's plenty of other things to say about this. But despite and after all the trouble he went through with how things are moving at the moment, only one thought occurs to me. What should I say? So probably don't fret over it. Yep. Now everything is back to normal. He is a detective too, so you gotta input that in. Maybe it's a force of habit. I recognize his concern for what it is. It's not new for him to go out of his way for us, and to be honest, this is what I love about him. As much as I would have loved to take this off his hands, it'll only be selfish of me to insist, considering he knows of my other commitments. To do so feels like I'll be trampling on that kindness he seldom offers to anyone.
Sorry for putting you up to this.
Nah, don't mention it. You've got other things you need to worry about. Take care of those first. This is a small thing.
I still owe you one.
Oh, I can name a few things you can do about that. You know, there's this ice cream shop that opened near the movie house. I could use...
Okay, let's stop right there. That's enough. On second thought, maybe I'll just think about it some other time.
Harsh.
We both laugh. The sound lighter and more comfortable. Like the old days, when a werewolf 26-year-old is at the bottom of the list we need to worry about. This is how we find a common ground. We may not agree on a lot of things, we may see things the way the other does, but the give and take is something we learn to get used to over the years. Whenever it's like this, confidence in him is the least I can afford as things.
Really, thanks for this, Ash.
I'll let you know what happened afterwards, I promise. I'll call you later. You have a good day. Bye.
I admit, the way he puts it isn't comforting enough. He can be blunt like that. So many unknown variables, so many words left unsaid. I wish he simply laid them out all in the open, because like this, I'm more inclined to think there's an exaggeration on the other's part. If it's from Zachary or Ashton, I don't know. In the end, all I can do is wait, go about my day, and hope for the best. Before leaving, I spare Isabella's room one last glance, disturbingly quiet, now without her in it. I'll get answers from her later. For now, my concerns are best left here. And we're back at the high school. Anyway, that is it for now. When we come back, I'll definitely be reading more. But that's enough reading in my... I have no more water in me. I have a banana and peaches here to eat. So, yeah, I need some water fast. So I'm gonna stop right here. So have a good day, everyone.